Come here. That's close enough. This topic is more important than you think.
That's important.
By calling you evil, these games are making a statement about human nature.
One cannot deny human nature.
And human nature is the very foundation of politics. So in a way, these games are making the most political statement possible.
It's politics, man.
That's politics?
Yeah.
In this video, I'm going to explain what they're saying and how they're saying it, starting with Undertale. Undertale is a curious game. By that, I mean it's a game that makes you curious. Different things happen based on your choices. So you make different choices to see what happens. When you play long enough, you might make a new decision. Kill everyone, just to see what happens.
Because I'm curious? I'm a curious guy.
What happens is this. After killing every living soul in the underground, you find the villain, Flowey, and he says to you, "We are the same."
We are the same.
Curiosity is the root of both our evils. Perhaps such is the nature of a human soul.
It's human nature.
A surprisingly biblical Garden of Eden take from Undertale. What does Spec Ops: The Line have to say about human nature? Well, let's start with the protagonist, Captain Walker. Walker believes in his own righteousness. He wants to be a hero.
I'll be coming back a hero.
But when you play as Walker, you are not heroic. You gun down hundreds. You commit war crimes. You condemn an entire city to a torturous death. At a certain point, the game says to you, the player, if you were a good person, you wouldn't be here. What the hell? I was just following orders. I mean, playing the game. Can a game really blame me for playing it?
You're a bad person. You're a bad person.
Well, as I realized later, it's one thing to get mad at a game for calling you out. It's another thing to not get mad at a game for asking you to commit war crimes. What reason is there to keep playing a game like this? A game of constant atrocities, a game that doesn't want to be played.
Don't play with me. Don't play.
The game has an answer for us.
The truth, Walker, is that you're here because you wanted to feel like something you're not. A hero.
Perhaps evil comes from the stories we tell ourselves.
The ends always justify the means.
Side note, The Last of Us 2 is also a game that blames the player for playing it, but it also wants you to keep playing it. There's a reason people call it self-indulgent.
Enough of this self-indulgence.
Other side note, Spec Ops: The Line is loosely based off of Heart of Darkness, a book that can be interpreted as saying humans are inherently evil. The only person to ever recommend me this book was an economics professor.
The people are inherently evil.
Which I think is interesting. I think that tracks. If your favorite book is Heart of Darkness, comment what your major is. I'm curious. Anyways, maybe evil comes from curiosity, or maybe it comes from the stories we tell ourselves. Maybe both are true. Maybe neither are true. Either way, there's still one more game I want to talk about.
One more.
Shin Megami Tensei 4. For this, we have to start at the beginning. Shin Megami Tensei 4 is a hard game. This fact hits you as hard as the first boss.
Come on! This dude's still not dead? Look at that! Look at this shit, now we dead! Oh my fucking goodness!
The first boss is a wall that forces you to learn. One of the things you learn is the dialogue system. During boss battles, you get dialogue options that affect the fight. Depending on how you answer, you or your opponent can get buffed or debuffed. And what you learn is that it's better to manipulate them than to tell the truth. For example, when you fight Medusa, if you call her ugly, she'll get buffed and you'll probably die. It's better to call her beautiful.
You think I'm beautiful?
Now, typically, you don't know the right answer to these questions, but there is one exception, and that's when you fight Isabeau. Up to this point, Isabeau has been your faithful companion. She doesn't want to fight you, and she's extremely weak. When she asks you how you really feel, it's like a dying wish from a friend.
You know, a dying wish.
And I knew exactly what to say in order to crush her.
I'll crush her.
It was only after I saw her absolute despair that I thought, why the hell did I do that?
Why did you do that?
She was my friend. It wasn't out of curiosity, and I wasn't trying to be a hero or even a villain. It was because of a small fear in the back of my mind.
It was just instant F.
One planted in the very first boss fight.
Fear of death?
Fear of death.
You will die if you tell the truth. Without thinking, I let this irrational fear dictate my actions. I know trauma is an overused word, but what else do you call an event that teaches you to act out of fear?
I can't handle going through this again.
I wonder now, how many of these little fears do I have in real life? I've had plenty of worse experiences than dying to a boss repeatedly. How often do I act on those fears? How often do others act on those fears?
Never make decisions out of fear, Jasper.
Is human nature just a series of little traumas?
Builds character.
In summary, games can say a lot with a little. They can tell you about the world by telling you about yourself. So think about that the next time you play one. And thanks for watching.